It's a man's world is a phrase I heard a lot growing up, and thankfully it's an outdated term because the truth is, it's never just been a man's world. Women have been there right alongside men, be it in the sciences, athletics, politics, mathematics, or whatever field you think of. And I guarantee women have had their say. Men, though, through most of history, have just refused to acknowledge what women have had to say, and even less about their input and worth to all the hard work that women were doing down through all those ages of history. For example, I'm betting you've never heard of Hypatia, a woman who deserves her own damn video in a place alongside all the Greek greats like Plato and Socrates. A mathematician, philosopher, and astronomer, Hypatia was also a teacher and a scholar of what is known as Neoplatonianism, a school of thought rooted in the teaching of Plato. Hypatia is one of the first women documented and well-documented mathematician and woman of science in all of history, and yeah, she too had to battle a shitload of sexism. Sexism that ended up killing her, and that sexism was expressed by a mob of Christian monks one bright morning in the old Egyptian city of Alexandria. Christian monks who were egged on by the Archbishop of Alexandria, Cyril, who had already destroyed what was left of the great library of Alexandria. Why? Because the Archbishop was trying to solidify power, and having your supporters drag Hypatia from her chariot one spring morning, stripping her nude and then beating her to death, apparently was a way to power. And why was Cyril afraid of Hypatia? Well, because she was a pagan, and there was a strong pagan population in the city, and Hypatia was loved and listened to by all those pagans. But the bigger question is why have you never heard of this woman? Then again, you've heard of Henry Ford, but not Bertha Benz, and that just ain't right, because all you car lovers out there, why, you owe Bertha a lot. In fact, the problem all these women in this video have with their history being told is that to understand them in their role in history, you have to identify the man who got all the attention. And something about that just doesn't seem right. Carl Benz, as in Mercedes-Benz automobile, you know, the car most of us will never drive because we can't afford them, wouldn't have had much success without his wife's grit and determination. When the public back in 1888 wasn't buying into the newfangled concept of the automobile, mostly because Carl Benz was a poor salesman, meaning he had a good idea, but didn't know what to do with it. So his wife Bertha stepped in, loaded up her 2 cents, and started out on an unheard of 60-mile car trip at a time when there were no paved roads, and she did so without telling her husband, because Carl had forbidden Bertha to make the trip. Along the way, she had to unclog a fuel line. When her brakes failed, she had to make her own brake linings and repair a broken drive chain. She had to search out water to cool the engine, and of course, she had to find chemists along the way, because chemists back then had what was being used for gas, back before the turn of the century. The 60-mile trip took from dusk to dawn, and she returned home, repeating the trip a few days later. All this despite the trip being forbidden by her husband, who did take advantage of all the publicity Bertha got for making her trip and turning her husband's new car company into the preeminent auto manufacturer of the day. Bertha Benz, the driver of the first road trip in a newfangled invention that changed our world. And speaking of changing our world, one who tried and had impact is a cross-dressing woman who also happened to be black. Born in 1907, Gladys Bently was harassed as a kid because she liked to dress in men's clothes, and she was not ashamed of her sexuality. When as a young woman, Gladys applied as a man for a position seeking a male to play a piano. Gladys dressed as a man in a tux and got the job. Gladys could also carry a tune and was one of the leading blues singers during the Harlem Renaissance, a time of vibrant and artistic accomplishments during the 20s and 30s. Now dressed to the nines in a flamboyant white tux with top hat and cane, Gladys flaunted her sexuality, challenging gender norms of the day, and her lyrics were raunchy, and her performances were bold. And Gladys today is a key figure in the LGBTQ movement. But like Bertha and Hypatia before her, her story is one of the most have never heard. And I'm guessing that's because most historians have been men to women all over the world and all throughout history. I salute you. And to be honest, I do believe that I think most men are appreciative of the work that women have done. Maybe that wasn't the case 100 or 200 years ago, but I think that's changed a little bit, especially in our society. And that's not a bad thing. Now, this was an interesting and a fun video to do, and I just got to say this. So I had all my teeth pulled back in February, and I've been wearing these friggin' healing dentures, what they call healing dentures. And it just plays hell with my pronunciation, okay? So please, know that I tried really, really hard. But, I mean, for some reason, this is the second video I did. The first one, I screwed up Hypatia's name. I mean, I was saying Hypatia for some reason. And I know what the reason is, but I'm not going to get into it because it's out there. But this, I got two more months of wearing these damn things. Then I get my real dentures that I got to wear for a year, and then I'm going full implants, dentured implants, not individual implants. But none of you care about that. So I just thought I'd mention it because, well, I don't know. Anyway, like I said, getting back to the video at hand, how is it that you've heard of Henry Ford, but you've never heard of the woman that took the first goddamn road trip, Bertha Benz? And that woman must have had a ton of determination and a ton of grit to do what she did. And I bet she was just a fascinating person if you happen to be one in her circle. I bet she was a fascinating person to have conversations with. Conversations. Yes. I love you guys. Thanks for watching. I'm out of here and love you.